Listen, clip of the month. That is going back to Laura. We were talking about maybe being a bit playful and having a midpoint. That's me being playful and having a midpoint and trying to keep people's interest up. You may think, well, I couldn't be that playful at Heathrow, but there's a little thought to conjure with. But what is clip of the month? It's actually serious. What I'm going to do now, and in all future sessions, is find a clip, maybe 1 to 2 minutes from the news that illustrates the formulas that journalists use in communicating. We touched upon some of these already, but I'm going to play this. It's 2 minutes from November. I decided not to use Ukraine because it's too much for us all, and I didn't want a whiff of me seeing that as a marketing opportunity or something. So I've gone to COP26. Hugh Edwards is live in Glasgow, introducing a news report, basically summing up some of the issues of the day. COP26, the most complicated thing ever. You know, how complicated was that? So I want you to have a little look and think about what devices, what communications techniques you can spot. And then if you go into chat, do share them. And Rachel, if you could ping me a note in chat to reassure me it is actually playing properly at this time. Okay, here's the clip. It's 2 minutes. See how many you can spot, and then we'll go back and look at it again, and I'll point out the stuff I've spotted. Here we go.
So let's spell out then what negotiators here in Glasgow need, or at least hope to achieve, by the end of next week. More ambitious targets, for example, to cut emissions. They are vital. That means more action to limit global warming to a maximum of 1.5 degrees. Reducing the use of coal is essential. It's the most polluting fossil fuel, but many countries are still very dependent on it. The effects of climate change are already clear, so countries and communities need more help to adapt to that new reality. And that help will mean money. But how much will richer countries give to those nations worst affected by the effects of climate change? Bangladesh is among the hardest hit, so our science editor David Shukman takes a look at the needs of just one village in the southern region.
In a village on the coast of Bangladesh, people are using mud to try to hold back the sea. It's all they've got. The rising level of the ocean means they're getting flooded more often. With life so precarious, this community has long been desperate for international help. That's why Shorbanu Khatun wanted to share her story. Extreme weather is striking more often, and there's still very little assistance.
We have no idea what we can do. If people can help us, then something can change. We don't have the money to move to other places. I have nothing that I can give to my children.
The 100 billion was just a promise that is not being kept, and its importance is that leaders who made the promise are not keeping their promise, and therefore these leaders have no credibility.
Back in Bangladesh, Shorbanu says she doesn't want her children and grandchildren to suffer more than she has. But they're facing a hotter and more hostile climate, so there's real pressure for the talks in Glasgow to get somewhere. David Shukman, BBC News.
So there we go. There's my clip of the month. Sorry, the volume level was slightly low, but it's interesting to see the messages that have come in. Justin pointed out headlines. Hugh Edwards basically headlined what was in that. Rachel spotted the simple language. Justin, again, a human interest angle. Yeah, human interest. Storytelling was spotted by Brett. Credibility, real people from Juliet, real people and case studies, and the visuals matching the story. These are all absolutely at the heart of news broadcasting. And I agree with everything you've said there. So what I'm going to do now is play it again. And this time, I'm going to highlight the things that I thought, and I'll hit pause once or twice. So we'll have a little look at this until 10 past, then we'll do a little wash up, and then stick around till 1/2 if you want to, but otherwise I think we'll all be done. Okay, I'll play it again and point out the things I spotted, which I think you've spotted already.
So let's spell out then what negotiators here in Glasgow need, or at least hope to achieve, by the end of next week. More ambitious targets, for example, to cut emissions. They are vital. That means more action to limit global warming to a maximum of 1.5 degrees. Reducing the use of coal is essential. It's the most...
There must have been 100,000 pieces of paper that day at COP26 with info, stuff that had been achieved, stuff that was being worked on. The BBC producers have boiled it down to 4 bullet points.
Polluting fossil fuel, but many countries are still very dependent on it. The effects of climate change are already clear, so countries and communities need more help to adapt to that new reality. And that help will mean money. But how much will richer countries give to those nations worst affected by the effects of climate change?
Carefully written script, 4 bullet points. The words kind of worked with the script. Think, how often when you're doing a presentation or you're training your teams to do a presentation, do you have slides just drowning in data and you're talking at the same time and the words don't even work with the slide? Thought process around that. Let's now look at the report that Huw Edwards introduces, compiled earlier that day by the reporter.
Bangladesh is among the hardest hit, so our science editor David Shukman takes a look at the needs of just one village in the southern region.
In a village on the coast of Bangladesh, people are using mud to try to hold back the sea.
How often do you start an element of your presentations with something really compelling and visual? Or do you just start with a bunch of facts and data? Maybe you do the visuals, but TV people go for the visuals first.
It's all they've got. The rising level of the ocean means they're getting flooded more often. With life so precarious, this community has long been desperate for international help. That's why Shorbanu Khatun wanted to share her story. Extreme weather is striking more often, and there's still very little assistance.
And as Juliet pointed out, it's a case. We start with a case study. Yeah, it's not left to the end. I'm doing some work on a big corporate client who want me to help them with their webinars, and they've sent me some of their webinars already, and there's an awful lot of data in them. And then at the end, oh, here are some case studies. No, put it to the top, put it at the beginning, and that's the way you get the early engagement, and your audience think, I get this. This is actually about me and my world.
We have no idea what we can do. If people can help us, then something can change. We don't have the money to move to other places. I have nothing that I can give to my children.
The 100 billion was just a promise that is not being kept. And its importance is that leaders who made the promise are not keeping their promise.
And look at the order of the 2 voices you're going to hear. The real person is first. The expert is second. Translate that into your world, perhaps. Do you put the member of staff? Do you put the person in the who's in the canteen, who's got a story to tell about the company's approach to something first? Or do you put the CEO in the suit, in the designer jacket? Think about the order in which you present the people. That's something, as a journalist, I believe in quite strongly. Let's spend 2 or 3 minutes now just getting your thoughts on that, because that sums up my clip of the month and why I think that's relevant. What are your takeaways from that? Anyone want to chip in any thoughts in the last 2 or 3 minutes?
John, I think it's quite powerful, but a question I would have, when Huw was speaking, one thing that I generally hear when sort of being coached and coaching is to pause when you're speaking. And Huw didn't seem to pause when he's speaking to emphasize anything. Is that a technique from TV, or is it just a clip where he didn't really pause?
I think it's the latter, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't dare to criticise someone of Huw Edwards' stature myself. No. But it's interesting you pick up on that. But no, I don't think it's a training thing. I think maybe he was having a bad day, or just it was I don't know. But no, presenters have different styles. But generally, pausing is got to be a good thing, I think, certainly. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Anyone else got any observations about that? Or maybe tell me that's not relevant to what we're all trying to achieve here. I don't know.
John, I think, these points are so relevant, and it shows how much the internal comms needle of sophistication is moving. I think one of the challenges that we probably all have in the call is it's around budget and ability to produce things of a sufficient level. And I think there's always a perception that there's a lot of cost, whereas obviously in the BBC newsroom, there's a whole engine that drives this, where I think a lot of organizations are probably quite underfunded and under-resourced in this space. And it's how to navigate that that need for resource and budget with some truly effective, for example, these bullet points are really great takeaways and they're actually quite easy to implement. I think the challenge comes in the actual production itself and being able to put the slick case study into a video or a presentation that is useful, or how do you sort of, what ways can people navigate that need to kind of demand budget versus the need to produce something of world-class level that people are going to be interested in versus the actual restraints? You know, where do you...
My instinct is you take it one step at a time. You don't say we've got to produce the most fantastic glossy thing that will make people want to watch it rather than Ant and Dec, but you do just say baby steps. Let's next time, let's pretty much do what we're doing, but we'll try and include 2 or 3. Actually, let's be precise. We're going to have 3 30-second video messages from staff on the ground. Don't have to be polished. As Anne said, what was that phrase you used? It's a performance. It's not a presentation.
It's not a presentation.
Yeah. And then so the expectation is low. And then if that works, you then maybe start working on your slides a bit. You can see I've had a bit of marketing work on my slides, but that sort of came next. So I think it's an incremental thing.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Rachel.
Just to what Brett was saying, I think case studies are crucially important, as John was emphasising. Something that I found carries a lot of impact on social media as a social media manager, if you don't have the production capabilities to make videos, is just to make a slide with a really impactful quote from a case study. And actually just having people's words on screen and being able to verbally explain who they are and what the context is very briefly goes a really long way. And actually sometimes just seeing those words in quite a stark way can have as much impact, if not more impact, than actual video.
And even easier to do, isn't it? Easier to do. So look, Brett, thanks for that question. Sorry, someone was coming in there, big part.
I was just going to say there's a fantastic tool. I mean, there's a tool for everything these days, but I don't know if you use a tool called Canva, which is it's something you subscribe to, but it's really not expensive, and it pretty much makes videos for you. You do have to slot your content in, but it really does create some very professional looking content. And that's
Canva, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. I promised this would be 45 minutes and we're coming up to the 45-minute point. So let me just dive in here. But as I say, I'm sticking around to 1:30 if anyone wants a bit more. But if you thought, oh, well, that was interesting, that was fun. Brett, you kindly said that you've got a couple of ideas about things I'm up to. I've got a workshop masterclass called How to Make Your Webinars or Staff Meetings So Good No One Will Want to Click Leave, which is tongue-in-cheek. But that develops these ideas over 1 to 2 hours virtual or face-to-face. I have team building events. I also do keynotes, but a team building activity, Get More Done by Lunchtime, where I immerse your team in a newsroom scenario where they've got to get their stuff organized by lunchtime at the lunch night news. That's based on my experience as a lunchtime presenter, where no time to mess around. So that's about agile comms, a lot of fun there. And you can even have a go reading off an auto cue. And also, if you think, well, we need a bit of media training in this place, and you know someone who's head of media, I also do a bit of that as well. So there's just some of the stuff I'm up to. If you're leaving now, and I promised 45 minutes, that's where we're at now. As I say, do spread the word. Consultants like me live and breathe by recommendations and referrals. So anything on LinkedIn or mentioning me to somebody would be super. Come along next time if you found this of value, 27th of April. And GDPR means I'm not going to bombard you with stuff, but if you want my newsroom secret every few weeks or want a reminder of when the next comms clinic is, send me your email address in chat and I will put you on my little list. And now I want to stop sharing. No, I'm going to share a poll with you just to get a quick instant feedback while I play a bit of jazz, although I think when I play the poll the jazz stops. So just a little bit of a feedback poll here with 3 little questions that will help me judge how useful or otherwise this has been. And with a bit of luck, jazz music, what are you doing?